Things are not rosy for President William Samoei Ruto, and it seems like the gods have blocked their ears from his prayers. They have decided to abandon William Samoei Ruto. While William Ruto thought that by incorporating some of the opposition members into his cabinet, he would have some reprieve, it is far from over. Because while he charged Kimani Ichung'wah, who is the majority leader, to introduce tough tax measures in the Finance Bill 2024 that was passed by force and later rejected by Gen Zs, he forgot that the Finance Bill 2023 that also led the Azimio to go to the streets was still pending in the courts of appeal. Because after going through the High Court and the High Court ruled the way they ruled, then the Attorney General, the government, went to appeal. And that was pending as he was dealing with people on the streets about the same. And today, the court made a major ruling that is going to cause William Ruto sleepless nights, not only for 1 week, but for the entire period that William Ruto will be the president of this country. Let's go very fast to what has been recorded. It is said, blow to Ruto as Court of Appeal rules Finance Act 2023 was unconstitutional. The Court of Appeal has put the final nail in the coffin of Finance Act 2023 by upholding the finding by the High Court that declared it unconstitutional. The judges said the process leading to the enactment of the Finance Act 2023 was fundamentally flawed and in violation of the Constitution. Let us quote the judges verbatim. Accordingly, we hereby issue a declaration that the enactment of the Finance Act 2023 violated Articles 220(1)(a) and Article 221 of the Constitution as read with Section 37, 39A and 40 of the PFMA, which prescribes the budget-making process, thereby rendering the ensuing Finance Act 2023 fundamentally flawed and therefore void and initio and consequentially unconstitutional. Justices Kathurima, Menoti, Agnes Murgo, and John Mativo said on Wednesday, 31st July, today. Ladies and gentlemen, the fear is gone. I cannot believe that these are the same judges who are being threatened. And William Ruto was telling them, I will not obey the court rulings. And for sometimes I thought that maybe they had coiled their tail in their, and they would also dance to William Ruto's tune. Now, the Finance Bill 2023 was a process that led to loss of blood in this country. It was forced on us. And back then, Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto were still reading from the same page. And I remember William Ruto, warning the members of parliament allied to Kenya Kwanza. And he was telling them, I want to see those who are going to vote down this bill. And Rigathi Gachagua told the opposition that don't even bother to oppose this bill because you don't have the numbers. After that bill, we've seen a lot of outcry because from Gashagua's backyard, the avocado farmers started crying foul. Kindly subscribe to our channel if you're watching for the first time. Click the notification bell and like our videos. I want to thank you so very much for your continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to delve so much because it's time. It's now over 1 year because this was passed on 26th of June last year. And the government went ahead to gazette it after ascending to it on 27th. I want us to look at exactly just a few things that were contained in the Finance Bill 2023, now the Finance Act, because it had been ascended to by the president. what were some of the things that came out that was standing out that made people go to the streets? Number one, the Finance Act 2023 contained the housing levy. Remember, this housing levy was one of the pet projects of William Samoei Ruto. He had warned that he wanted to create jobs for the youth because William Ruto got into power with a lot of emotions and he abandoned every project from his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, whom I believe is laughing in his retirement as he retires and ages gracefully. He's looking at William Ruto and is laughing because when William Ruto came to power, he came with a lot of emotions. Now, William Ruto abandoned Kazi Mtaani and he said that he will replace it with the affordable housing. So, the affordable housing went through some changes. It was supposed to be 3% refundable, used to buy some houses. And then later, after some amendments, they settled on 1.5, I think, both the employer and the employee. Courtesy of this introduction of the housing levy, where an employer had to chip in 1.5 of a percent of your salary, some people decided to render their employees jobless. And I remember someone like Buzeki was saying that it became very untenable to do business. It forced certain employers to start paying their employees, in cash rather than doing it in the bank. It was just difficult. So in the Finance Bill 2023, we had the housing levy. That was very prominent there. You have to pay 1.5% of your salary, and then the employer will chip in. Number two was the introduction of a payee, a new tax payee, and it was 32.2% for those who are earning between 500,000 to 800,000. They were paying 32.2% as payee. Now, those who are earning more than 800,000 were to be taxed 35%. And William Ruto had said that he was going to heavily tax those who are heavily paid to help those who are earning less. And so there was also, apart from that tax, there was also the introduction, the increment of a levy on petroleum products from 8%. There was that VAT, yes, value added tax on petroleum products from 8% to 16%. And you know what that meant? Anytime you increase the prices of petroleum products, then you pass that burden to the consumer, you pass that burden to our manufacturers. And they complained that courtesy of that bill, courtesy of the introduction of 16% value added tax, it was difficult to do business in Kenya, and some of the investors ran away. All that has been rendered useless courtesy of a ruling at the High Court, at the Court of Appeal. Now, what are some of the options that William Ruto, because I don't know whether, because I understand that the highest court in the land is the Supreme Court. And I don't know, in my very little understanding, I think that the Supreme Court deals with matters political, especially between the presidential disputes, elections, or matters disputing the governors. Because I remember when that was Kidero versus Waititu, I think it landed in the Supreme Court. It landed in the Supreme Court. So after the Court of Appeal ruling, I don't know whether William Ruto still has the laxity of the privilege of going to the Supreme Court. I don't know. But this has really exposed William Ruto. And it is really, placing William Ruto in a very difficult situation. Why? Remember, the housing levy plus all these that are in this bill are the ones that made people go to the street. And William Ruto had declared that he was not going to listen to the court verdicts because he was complaining that there are some unscrupulous politicians and some unscrupulous businessmen who wanted to take advantage, and they were working in cahoot with the judges to sabotage his agenda. Because back then people were on the street, and people like Okia Mutata, the Law Society of Kenya, went to courts because they found out that the process and the manner in which this was being forced into in our people was very unconstitutional. As a matter of fact, people went to public participation, experts, and I remember people like Kwame Owino. All the people who spoke said, we are not against paying taxes, but please, this is not the time. Now, people got angered even more, knowing very well that these were measures that were dictated by IMF. And people were like, we are being dictated in our own country. And after the public participation, all the views that people gave were mere formality. And so it was forced on people. And people went to the street and people were killed. Now, it is exposing Ruto because it has come back again. And just a few weeks ago, Gen Zs had led protests on the streets because there was another finance bill 2024 that had many taxes in it, some of which were abandoned. William Ruto pretended to have abandoned them in 2023. They were introduced in 2024, and people went to the streets and people were killed. So for 2 consecutive financial seasons, 2 bills led people to the streets and people died. Now, William Ruto has not even healed from the finance bill 2024. Questions are being asked, still being asked. There are children or youth who have not been seen. Just recently, 50 bodies were found in city mortuary. So William Ruto still has the scars fresh in his heart. The former Inspector General, Japheth Koome, resigned courtesy of the protests of the Finance Bill 2024. So it is still fresh, is still nursing the wounds or the scars. And then the court comes pop with another verdict. It is going to be very difficult for him. So we are going to see, is he going to obey the court orders, the court ruling? Because I think it is the government that went to the Court of Appeal after the High Court ruled that it was unconstitutional. You know, we have policemen in Haiti. When Ruto defied the courts, the court said we don't have the capacity of sending our youths, of sending our police to Haiti. So we want to see, because this is going to expose William Ruto even more. Is he going to respect the courts? Is he going to come with this manner of cruel, telling people I have the sword and I will use it against those people who are defying me? We are waiting and see. The other person who has been exposed here is Raila Amolo Odinga and the entire ODM fraternity. They are the people who led, with the Azimio, led protest in 2023. And they went to the streets and people were killed. They were saying, reduce the cost of living. We want to know what happened, because there was the electoral justice and the cost of living. So they formed a caucus, the NADCO committee in Bomas. They never talked about the cost of living. And now, 1 year down the line, Raila and his people are in the government, yet the courts are now saying the Finance Bill 2023 was unconstitutional. What is Raila going to do? I think he's going to tell Kenyans that we need to dialogue. But the question is, even if you want to dialogue, are we going to dialogue about things that have been declared by the courts? I don't know. This is painful, and it has really, really dented William Samoei Ruto. Sleepless nights. It is not yet over. And I know Gen Zs are going to say back to the streets, because we have realized that Gen Zs, the Law Society of Kenya, civil rights groups must pile pressure on this government. I don't know what is going to happen next, ladies and gentlemen, that this is the final blow on Ruto's agenda.